Hello again, all you boils, ghouls, and non-binary creatures of the night. So for my very first review on this channel, I actually want to talk about a movie that's seen renewed interest in the horror community in the last couple decades. So for a really long time, Halloween 3 had a very, very small cult following, but it seemed like most people either hated it or just hadn't seen it. Slowly though, it's actually grown more and more of a positive reputation in the horror fandom as people go back and give it another look. If you haven't actually seen a movie, I highly recommend you hit pause now and go watch it. Because I'm about to spoil the batshit fucking insanity that is this film. However, if for whatever reason you haven't seen the movie and are still watching this video anyways, you should know one thing before we start. This film is divisive as fuck! And there's good reason for it. So people tend to fall into four camps when it comes to this movie. There are people who think it's one of the most underrated horror movies ever made that just happened to get fucked by circumstances outside of its control. People who think the movie is a convoluted mess and that it shouldn't be part of the Halloween series. People who acknowledge the film's flaws but love it anyways because of how bonkers it is. And people who haven't actually seen the movie. Many of whom don't even realize that Michael Myers isn't in this one. Yeah, Michael Myers isn't in this movie. Let's start by addressing that big fucking elephant in the room. This is the only Halloween movie that doesn't feature Michael Myers. And unlike Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, this one doesn't even have a fucking copycat killer. It's not even a slasher movie. It's more of a weird, culty, sci-fi detective movie. So, how is it even part of the Halloween franchise? To truly understand that, we have to kind of go back to how the franchise began. So in 1974, both Black Christmas and Texas Chainsaw Massacre were released. Arguably the very first two slasher films, not counting proto-slashers like Psycho or Peeping Tom. So these two movies made money, and any fucking time something in Hollywood makes even a little money, people try to find a way to copy its success. In this case, some producers hired John Carpenter to write and direct a horror movie centered around Halloween. He wrote the script with his incredibly talented writing partner and producer Deborah Hill, who fucking rules and does not get enough credit when it comes to Halloween. Together, the two of them came up with a good concept for the film centered around a babysitter killer, and then Carpenter directed the fucking hell out of their script. He also composed a kick-ass and iconic film score for the movie as well, out of necessity, because they couldn't afford anyone else, and it only took him fucking 3 days to compose. The cherry on top of all of this brilliance was the casting of the main protagonists of the film, actor Donald Pleasance as Michael Myers' former psychiatrist Sam Loomis, who pursues Michael with all the voracity and madness of Captain Ahab, and of course a young and extremely talented actress by the name of Jamie Lee Curtis, daughter of Janet Leigh from Psycho, making Jamie a second-generation Scream Queen. Jamie played the main character of Laurie Strode, a vulnerable yet strong badass that was impossible not to root for. The combined result of all of this fantastic talent was that it made a buttload of money when it came out. In fact, it was actually, at the time, one of the most successful independent films ever. So, Carpenter and Hill were drafted into writing a sequel, whether they wanted to or not. For the sequel, they brought back Michael Myers, and the film picks up right where the previous movie left off, with Michael Myers continuing to stalk Jamie Lee Curtis while Sam Loomis runs around being crazy and shooting at stuff. In order to try and justify Myers' relentless stalking of the main character, they added in the twist that Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laurie Strode, was actually Michael Myers' younger sister. A twist that even the writers themselves never were really happy with, and was retconned in the most recent series of Halloween movies. Despite the fact that neither Hill or Carpenter were happy with the script, and Carpenter chose not to come back and direct Halloween 2, it's still a decent movie. And more importantly, it was a successful movie, which meant, once again, it was sequel time. Except Hill and Carpenter really were sick of writing about Myers, and Halloween 2 ended up with him being killed in a fiery fucking explosion. Most other horror movie franchises would just ignore this and come up with some sort of retcon or dumb reason to bring the killer back. But instead, for Halloween 3, they decided to go a very different route. See, Carpenter and Hill agreed to move forward with a third film. However, this time they would serve only as producers, and they only agreed to participate if the movie was not a direct sequel to Halloween 2 and did not have Michael Myers. The idea being that Halloween 3 would be an original story, and then the franchise could continue as an anthology series where each year a new film would be released that focused on some aspect of the Halloween season. It's actually a really fucking cool idea, but spoiler, due to audiences demanding more Michael Myers, didn't actually come to pass. But because of this new direction, Halloween 3 didn't actually need any connection to the previous 2 Halloween movies. It could be whatever it wanted to be. And in my opinion, that was both a blessing and a curse. It gave them a lot of freedom, but maybe too much. So what did they decide to do with all this creative freedom? Well, let's start with the story. Since they had the freedom to tell their own tale, what story did the writer-director Tommy Lee Wallace end up going with? Also, before you all actually me in the YouTube comments, I am aware that the original first draft of the script was written by a well-known British screenwriter before it was handed over and then rewritten by Wallace and the producers. However, the original writer hated the changes and rewrites so fucking much, he made them promise to take his name off the movie, and it was removed. And since I have no fucking way of knowing who wrote what, and the other author specifically doesn't want any association with the finished project, I am going to just refer to Tommy Lee Wallace as the writer/director. Yeah. Anyways, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the plot. So the movie starts off with a man clutching onto a Halloween jack-o'-lantern mask like his life depends on it. It kind of does. The man with the mask is being chased by some creepy goons in suits. We later learn that the masked man is a local shop owner named Harry. So after Harry barely escapes with his life from the men chasing him, he's taken to a hospital and put into the care of a dangerously alcoholic doctor named Dr. Daniel Chalice, played by the legendary Tom Atkins. That night, while under Dr. Daniel's care, one of the suited thugs sneaks into Harry's room and kills him, and then proceeds to burn himself alive. So, a normal night in any big city ER. A day or so later, Dr. Daniels is at a local bar trying to drink away his feelings and forget about his family. Apparently, Dr. Daniels' wife, the aptly named, not appearing in this movie, ran away with the kids due to Dr. Drunk's drinking problem. So, Dr. Daniels' dismal drunken doldrums are then duly interrupted when he is confronted by Harry's daughter Ellie, who's trying to figure out what the fuck happened to her dad. Daniel tells her about everything that happened at the hospital and about the mask her dad was holding on to and the creepy men in suits, and the two of them decide to team up and investigate. Go mystery team. The two sleuths are able to track the mask back to a company called Silver Shamrock that makes popular Halloween masks, including the iconic trilogy of masks the film is known for. They are, of course, a green witch, a white skull, and an orange jack-o'-lantern. The three masks are often referred to by fans as the titular Halloween 3. Get it? Because there are 3 of them. Yeah. Also, besides the mask, there's another iconic detail I should mention. Throughout the movie, you constantly see Silver Shamrock commercials playing on TV screens in the background, counting down the days until their special Halloween event, and letting kids know to have their masks ready for the special event. The song goes something like this. 5 more days to Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 5 more days till Halloween, Silver Shamrock. This song plays over and over and over again throughout the film. Anyways, so Daniel and Ellie take off to the small California town where the mask company is located and book a stay at the local motel pretending to be a married couple, despite the fact that Atkins looks old enough to be Ellie's dad. While signing into the guest book, Daniel learns that Harry stayed at the same motel. There are also some other motel guests, including 2 shop owners in town for a business meeting at the factory. One of the shop owners also has his wife and their son with him. So, later that night at the hotel, Marge, the shop owner who didn't bring their family on the fucking work trip, is playing around with one of the Halloween masks and finds that there's actually a microchip on the back of the giant Silver Shamrock button that's in all of their Halloween masks. After fiddling with it a bit, she is actually zapped in the fucking face, killing her and causing a large spider to emerge from the wound. It is kind of fucking amazing. Like, seriously, fucking look at this. Oh, fun bonus fact, Marge Gutman here was played by Tom Atkins' real-life wife at the time, actress Garn Stevens. Anyways, later, Daniel and Ellie see an ambulance taking what's left of Marge away and decide to head to the factory where the head of Silver Shamrock, Conal Cochran, tells them not to worry. Everything's totally cool, just an accident, nothing to see here, etc. So, the next morning, Daniel and Ellie actually get to go on a tour of the factory, like a far less exciting version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And during the tour, they actually discover that Harry's car is still there in the parking lot. They try to get to it, but can't because it's guarded by more of the evil minions in suits. However, deciding the car is enough proof that something is definitely rotten in Denmark, Dan and Elle return to the motel and attempt to call for help. Except the phones don't work. And instead, both Ellie and Daniel are captured by the men in suits, who are revealed to be super advanced androids created by Cochran. Yes, the sequel to a movie about a man with a mask stalking babysitters has evil frickin' android henchmen who work for a rich Halloween mask mogul. Yeah. Back at the factory, Cochran then reveals his evil scheme to the now captured Daniel like he's some sort of fucking Bond villain. The gist of it is that they are evil cultists, and each of the Silver Shamrock masks actually contains a tiny fragment of Stonehenge implanted in a tiny microchip hidden under their logo, and on Halloween night, they're going to air a very special commercial that will activate the mask using a flashing magic pumpkin image. The flashing magic pumpkin will then trigger the microchips to cause the kids' heads to melt, and then a swarm of insects, arachnids, and snakes will come out of the now dead kid's corpse and then immediately kill anyone nearby. Cochran, once again acting like a fucking Bond villain, demonstrates to Daniel exactly how the weapon works by killing the shop owner and his family. A tiny clip of this scene is actually in my intro because I seriously have always loved this part. Plus, I am always impressed when a movie has enough balls to actually kill a kid. So, after his weapon demonstration is over, Cochran puts a Silver Shamrock mask on Daniel while revealing the rest of his evil plan. Their end goal is to sacrifice as many children wearing his mask on Halloween as possible in order to bring about some sort of resurrection of the ancient age of witchcraft that stems from Celtic pagan rituals that Cochran's family has been practicing for centuries. Then in the ultimate cliched Bond villain move, Cochran leaves Dr. Daniel, alone in a room with a mask on and a nearby TV set so he can die via mask commercial magic, because of course he does. But, because Tom Atkins is a fucking badass, he destroys the television set, removes the mask, escapes through the air duct, and seemingly rescues Ellie. Pay attention to that word seemingly. It will come in handy later. So, our hero Dr. Drunk, then dumps a bunch of the magic computer chips from overhead rafters and activates them, killing Cochran's employees and causing Cochran himself to be zapped by the Stonehenge rune he was using to create his mask. The day is saved. Except, as our two heroes drive away, Ellie attacks Daniel, revealing herself to be an evil fembot robo-duplicate. See, I told you that seemingly would matter. That's called dramatic foreshadowing, kids. So the evil EllieBot 5000 causes Daniel to crash their vehicle, but he manages to decapitate Robo-Ellie with a tire iron. Now, on foot, he races to warn the world of the evil plot, and he arrives at a gas station where he uses a telephone to contact the television stations and attempt to convince all of the TV station managers to remove the commercial. He manages to persuade the stations to take it off channels 1 and 2, but on channel 3, the commercial keeps playing. Daniel desperately screams on the phone for the final station to turn off the commercial as the credits roll, and that's the end.
All witches, all skeletons, all jack-o'-lanterns.
The third commercial, it's still on, please. Take off the third channel, it's still running. Stop it, please, for God's sake, please stop it. There's no more time. You've got to, please, stop it now, turn it off, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it!
Yeah, kind of implies any kids watching Channel 3 were fucked. Also, I have a question. Was this commercial already broadcast on the East Coast? Or was it airing at the same time, meaning most kids on the East Coast would already be asleep? Or was the commercial only airing on the West Coast? I have a lot of fucking questions. But yeah, in the course of 3 movies, we went from Escape Madman murders babysitters to Escape Madman is still alive, and what a twist, the babysitter was his sister all along, to a story about a super rich businessman who owns an Irish-themed company that makes Halloween masks, who is trying to murder kids using the combined powers of consumerism and masks with magic microchips in them in order to, I'm not really entirely sure what the fuck his end goal was. But yeah, here's the thing about this movie though. The plot doesn't make any sense, like, at all. There's so many weird plot holes and unanswered questions and weird choices that if you try and make sense of it, your head will explode and insects will come pouring out of it. It doesn't really matter though. Trust me, a lot of horror movie plots make little fucking sense if you really stop to think about them. However, if you can ignore how crazy it all is and how little sense it all makes and just go along for the ride, it's a really fun movie. I seriously really kind of love the whole detective murder mystery vibe of the film. At times it actually feels like a really good hard-boiled detective story with some nonsensical sci-fi and horror elements stirred in for flavor. In fact, until I rewatched it a few years ago, I'd actually always misremembered Atkins' character as being an alcoholic private detective, not an alcoholic doctor. Honestly, it's hard for me to explain to others why I actually like this film so much. The movie just has this weird charm that sort of works for me. And while people poke at it for being cheesy, a lot of that actually comes from the outlandish plot. The film itself is played straight. The actors all take their roles seriously, and all of them are actually really great, especially Atkins and Dan O'Harely, who played the discount Bond villain Cochran. He just oozes the right sort of weird energy required for that type of role. The directing is also really competent as well. There are actually a few great scenes that really build up the sense of suspense or dread, and most of the time the movie feels like it was really well made. Hell, even the gore effects are good. There isn't a lot of gore, but the face melting scene in the hotel is great. And, the fact that they kill a kid with bugs crawling out of his mask to kill his parents, that image just sticks with you. But again, I have to love any movie with enough balls to kill a kid or two. And, of course, there's the song, or should I say jingle. Seriously, the Silver Shamrock jingle is simultaneously the best and worst thing ever. Maybe it's partially because it was sung to the tune of London Bridge is Falling Down, because it was in the public domain, but the Silver Shamrock song is an earworm that will burrow itself so deep into your brain, and it will be there forever. And despite how grating it is, I can't help but sing along to it every single time it plays, and oh my god, does it get played a lot in this movie. Seriously, a lot. I really don't know how the actors, could stand it. Ultimately, while I think this movie isn't a lost masterpiece, I do think it's a really fun film. I also feel like if it had been released as a standalone film and not part of the Halloween franchise, I don't think it would have gotten such a negative reputation, and it definitely wouldn't have taken so long to earn its cult status. It would have earned it way, way sooner, because it really is a fun watch. I get why fans of Michael Myers would have been disappointed when this film came out. Nowadays, though, we have 12 movies with Michael Myers divided over 4 different continuities, but there's only one Halloween 3. And for better or worse, there is nothing else like it. Though I'd kill for a reboot or remake just called Season of the Witch, honestly, at the end of the day, I'm just happy this movie exists. I love this movie. It's dumb, it's silly, it's weird, it's different, and it's fun. If you haven't seen it, or haven't seen it in a long time, I definitely think you should give it a watch. And even if you do hate this movie, you have to admit it's light years better than Halloween Resurrection and both versions of Halloween 6. So yeah, Darcy's right. Halloween 3 rules. Well, honestly, I think that's enough of my blabbering for now, so feel free to like and subscribe. Ta-ta.
Please, take off the third channel. The third channel, it's still running. Stop it, please. For God's sake, please stop it. There's no more time. You've got to, please, stop it. Stop it now. Turn it off. Turn it off. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.